Ethiopia just signed a $3 billion deal with Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote. But this isn't just a business agreement. It's a bold strike against hunger, inflation, and crippling import dependency. A new fertilizer plant in the heart of Ethiopia's dry Somali region could spark Africa's agricultural revolution, transforming the landscape for farmers nationwide. This is Ethiopia's boldest move yet. Chapter 1. Ethiopia and Dangote unite. Here's the big news. In July 2025, Ethiopia signed a groundbreaking $3 billion deal with Nigeria's industrial giant, the Dangote Group, led by Aliko Dangote, Africa's richest man and a powerhouse in fertilizer production. Why does this matter? Because Dangote isn't just any company. It already runs Africa's largest fertilizer plant in Nigeria, pumping out millions of tons of fertilizer annually, making that country more food secure and less dependent on imports. Now Ethiopia is the next major stage for this industrial giant. The goal? Simple but massive. Slash Ethiopia's heavy reliance on imported fertilizer, which drains the country's precious foreign currency reserves and leaves farmers vulnerable to global price shocks and supply disruptions. With more than 70% of Ethiopians relying on farming to feed their families and make a living, fertilizer isn't a luxury. It's a lifeline to ensure productive harvests and food security. This partnership sets the stage for East Africa's agricultural revolution, with Ethiopia leading the charge. Dangote's expertise, combined with Ethiopia's huge demand, creates a synergy that could reshape the region's farming future. Chapter 2. Why God was chosen.
As part of that ambitious plan, Dangote is expected to build a large-scale fertilizer plant in Ethiopia's southeastern area of Gode. The project's location, which is near the Ethiopia-Djibouti logistics corridor, offers convenient access to ports for both raw material imports and possibly for...
You might wonder, why Gode? It's a city in Ethiopia's Somali region, not exactly the first place that comes to mind for a massive industrial project. But that's exactly the point. Gode is a strategic location on multiple fronts. First, it sits near the Ogaden Basin, where Ethiopia has more than 7 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. This is crucial because fertilizer production relies heavily on natural gas to produce ammonia, a core ingredient for urea, which is a commonly used nitrogen fertilizer that helps crops grow quickly and strongly, and other nitrogen fertilizers. Second, Gode lies along the vital Ethiopia-Djibouti logistics corridor. Djibouti's port is Ethiopia's main anchor for imports and exports, so placing the plant here means much smoother supply chain operations for importing raw materials and exporting fertilizer. Third, the project fits perfectly with Ethiopia's goal of decentralizing industrial development. Historically, regions like Somalia have been underinvested and less connected to master economic plans. Building a fertilizer plant here means direct investment, jobs, infrastructure development, and a chance to economically uplift a critical but marginalized region. Putting all these factors together, Gode isn't just a location. It's a smart decision that leverages natural resources, logistics, and social development goals. Chapter 3. From gas to growth. Let's talk about natural resources. Ethiopia's natural gas reserves in the Ogaden Basin are massive, over 7 trillion cubic feet under the ground. Initially, Ethiopia aimed to export this gas as LNG or liquefied natural gas, which is natural gas cooled into a liquid for easier transport, through Djibouti to earn foreign revenue. But that plan stalled in 2022 when funding dried up, and geopolitical circumstances made the LNG export model less feasible. Instead of letting this asset go to waste, Ethiopia pivoted smartly. It used the gas locally to manufacture fertilizer and generate electricity. This shift from export ambitions to domestic industrialization turns a missed export opportunity into a foundation for sustainable growth right at home. Why is this so important? Because fertilizer production depends heavily on natural gas. Turning gas into fertilizer on Ethiopian soil means adding real value within the country. It cuts import costs, reduces vulnerability to global supply shocks, and creates high-value jobs. This local approach not only boosts agriculture, but also strengthens Ethiopia's energy sector and supports broader economic reform goals. Chapter 4. What's being built? Now here's what's coming to life. a massive fertilizer plant modeled closely after Dangote's Nigerian facility. Dangote Nigeria's plant produces about 3 million metric tons of fertilizer a year, a scale that has significantly reduced Nigeria's dependence on imports. In Ethiopia's Somali region, construction of a similar plant is projected to take around 40 months, starting in late 2025, with the total investment pegged at $3 billion. Once operational, this plant will produce urea and nitrogen-based fertilizers, not just enough to serve Ethiopia's vast agricultural sector, but enough to export to neighboring East African countries. Why does this matter for farmers? Access to locally produced fertilizer means stable prices and reliable supply, which are critical for timely planting seasons and maximizing crop yields. Moreover, such a large-scale operation will necessitate supporting industries, transportation, packaging, energy, creating ripple effects across the local economy, and deepening industrial capacity beyond just fertilizer. Chapter 5: Feeding the Nation. Time to get real about challenges. According to a report from Addis Standard, in April 2025, Ethiopia faced a fertilizer crisis. Only 40% of the fertilizer needed for the critical Meher planting season had arrived. That season covers the main agricultural cycle and is vital to national food security. Why such a shortfall? There were multiple problems. First, logistical bottlenecks, congested ports, shaky transport links, and delayed shipments. Then, foreign currency shortages limited Ethiopia's ability to pay for imports swiftly. Also, global fertilizer prices have been volatile, surging due to geopolitical conflicts like the Russia-Ukraine war, which disrupted supply lines worldwide. This shortage hasn't just been inconvenient, it's been devastating for smallholder farmers who form the backbone of Ethiopia's rural economy. Without enough fertilizer, crop yields fall, food production shrinks, and prices rise. This cycle threatens rural livelihoods and national food stability. The Dangote plant promises to directly tackle these systemic problems by creating a reliable, local fertilizer source that won't depend on foreign currency fluctuations or volatile international markets. It's about building resilience into Ethiopia's food system and protecting millions from hunger and poverty. Chapter 6: The Dangote Vision.
Actually turn Africa into a heaven in the next 5 years. It doesn't take time.
So
because I mean, you know, like what I keep saying, you need to think big, then you grow big. You think small, you never grow.
Okay, but the reality is right now we're still relying on foreign partners. To create more African banks is going to take some time. So what's your solution?
Well, the solution is that right now people have seen exactly what what they've been doing. We don't expect the international banks to do, but we should also make sure that we have you see, for us to grow, we need a very strong financial institutions. We need to have good manufacturing base. We need to also face agriculture. All the other artificial intelligence and co, they will follow. It's part of the growth. But once we do that, we focus on our own mineral sources. I am telling you, Africa will be totally a different story.
Aliko Dangote isn't just a businessman. He's a visionary shaping Africa's industrial future. His message is clear: Africa must feed itself. This isn't just a slogan, but a blueprint for economic transformation grounded in African leadership and enterprise. Dangote's fertilizer plant in Ethiopia marks a monumental step in building a pan-African supply network. After the tremendous success of his Nigerian fertilizer complex, which produces 3 million metric tons annually and turned Nigeria into a regional fertilizer powerhouse, he's expanding eastward. Ethiopia becomes the next strategic anchor in this network, bridging West and East Africa through industrial production. Why does this matter so much? Because Dangote's approach breaks the aid dependency cycle. Instead of relying on foreign help, Africa builds its industry, powers its own agriculture, and controls its food security. Dangote's vision is pure industrial Pan-Africanism, private sector-driven, large-scale projects that generate jobs, technology transfer, and economic growth. Chapter 7: Jobs, GDP, and Growth. Now, let's zoom in on the economic ripple effects of this $3 billion investment, one of the largest foreign private investments Ethiopia has ever seen. This isn't just about fertilizer production. It's an economic earthquake shaking the region. First, job creation. Thousands of jobs will emerge during the roughly 40-month plant construction phase. Engineers, technicians, construction workers, and logistics personnel. But the job benefits don't stop when the plant opens. Long-term operational jobs will follow, alongside indirect roles in transport, packaging, power generation, and more. For a region like Ethiopia's Somali state, which has historically faced economic underinvestment, this infusion of opportunities can be transformative. Second, GDP growth. The plant's output will boost industrial activity significantly and add value to Ethiopia's economy. Fertilizer production strengthens the agricultural supply chain, which accounts for over 30% of Ethiopia's GDP and employs most of its workforce. Most importantly, this aligns perfectly with Ethiopia's Homegrown Economic Reform 2 program, a framework aimed at modernizing agriculture, liberalizing key sectors, and attracting foreign direct investment. By integrating the fertilizer plant into this ecosystem, the government bolsters its broader economic goals of sustainable growth, diversification, and poverty reduction. In short, this project is fertilizer for the economy itself, catalyzing growth, empowering workers, and stabilizing rural livelihoods. Chapter 8. Africa's Green Future starts here. Let's zoom out. Goad's fertilizer plant isn't just an Ethiopian milestone, it's a blueprint for Africa's future food sovereignty. This project embodies what is possible when African countries invest in their resources and forge bold, mutually beneficial partnerships. Natural gas beneath the soil becomes fertilizer in the hands of farmers. Local production meets local demand. Regional trade strengthens peace and prosperity. It's a narrative shift where Africa stops being a passive consumer of global goods and becomes an active producer of its own destiny. With a gas-fueled industry and fertilizer-fueled farms, Ethiopia is not just feeding its people, it's fertilizing the future of an entire continent. What do you think? Is this Ethiopia's moment to lead Africa's food future, or is it still a long road ahead? Hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into Africa's transformation stories. Thanks for watching.